We're looking for the true center of California.
Well, you're close.
Close?
This is the true only auto parts store in the center of California.
All right, the center of California. We made it, Matt.
Oh, yes, we did.
Well, Ken, here we are again, heading up Auberry Road. There's an interesting tower up there. That's I think a beautiful venue that you can go to. Is it like a vineyard or a wine? Well, it's a wedding venue. I'm not sure they may have a vineyard there. Oh, okay. Beautiful foothills. We're getting the green grass off. Sun over there. A little bit of sun. The hint of sunlight. It's a little bit colder this time. Yeah. So what did you decide to wear for the winter? Oh, I doubled up on everything wool I had, and I feel pretty good. Yeah, I'm thinking when we quit driving, it's just gonna feel warm. Yeah. Well, you turned the heater on, didn't you? That will come in about 6 months. Yeah. It's really pretty this time of year. I mean, other than the being cold. And the fog went away. And in the Fresno, maybe I could add a gallon of gas here. Go left here. We're gonna go left. Yeah. Last time we came down that way, right? Yeah, that's right. I got my sun visor here. There we have the fog with the sun. Lots of fog in the lowlands. Okay, now we're gonna get into some steep stuff. Somebody told me I look like Bob Cratchit.
What's for breakfast?
Bacon and some oats. Okay, for the sleeping quarters, we've got my bedroll here with his wool blankets and a pad and an oilcloth tarp, and then we've got a cot and sleeping bag. And a wedge tent. and it seemed to do us pretty well.
And this, unlike the last trip where we had the umbrella tent that had a bottom, this has no bottom, so we didn't have to worry about cleaning anything but the oil tarp when we're done.
Yeah, yep, just shake it out and roll it up. So, and it seemed to keep us pretty dry, even though it was very, very wet, foggy at night.
Yeah.
All right, so for lighting at night, we have this. It's a 1925 lantern. It's a Coleman. It's called a quick light, and these old Colemans are not. They don't have an integral pump like the newer ones do, and so you have an external pump. So there's a valve right here, and you just open up the valve, and then you put this on and you pump it, and you can pump air into it just like you would a normal Coleman lantern. And then there's a valve here for turning it on, and in here is a clear out screw. So what it does is it has a pin in there, and it cleans out the tube, the generator tube. And then you have mantles, and you just light it like a normal Coleman lantern with a match, except you kind of have to preheat the generator a little bit to get the fuel to become a gas.
How is this different than a modern one? It looks almost the same, except for that pump is external.
The pump is external. That's one difference, and everything else, it actually operates about the same as a white gas lantern. Of course, the newer ones are now propane, and that makes it even different. But yeah, and this one was refurbished from a 1925 lantern, and some of the parts are new, and some of the parts are just cleaned up.
Can you spot the deer? There's the power plant. Can't see the substation lines there, but there's the main transmission lines, and they just come right over the bridge here and into the fog. This is actually ice, so I think I'm going to jack up the car because cranking it is not going to be fun. Step one, put the blocks on the tire. This is the San Joaquin River Gorge, and beautiful sunny day. Yesterday we came in, there's fog, and then fog all night. We actually got frost on the car. I thought I'd talk a bit about what I'm wearing. Hat, but the flaps and stuff simulate old. Everything's wool here, pretty much. These were actually military gloves. They worked well. I wore all of this last night. I wasn't cold in the cot, in the sleeping bag, of course. This jacket, I came from my stepdad. He was in Boston. This thing is solid. These pants, though, are from the 1930s. These are Woolrich, actually. Real thick. And then these are Logston's lace-up boots and some modern wool socks. I actually have two because I got wide to wear extra. And then we're stopped here along the side of the road. We just climbed out of the valley there, real steep grade, and our belt has come off. How I missed that earlier. We saw it last night and we didn't deal with it, and I guess it's just so cold. And the reason we really stopped, we forgot totally about that, but the reason we stopped was our brakes are not working, which I changed the bands and I just need to tighten it up, hopefully.
So you're taking the floorboards off to get to the
the
transmission.
We're gonna have to adjust the bands. And you know what? It's hard to get the floorboard when I have the ruck stolen regular. Gonna have to see about what to do here. Let's see. We might be able to get it off, and then I'll either that. Maybe I'll start it real quick.
So you need to disengage the ruxel? Or
actually engage it.
Oh, engage it. Okay.
See, I have this foot pedal
Right.
for my ruxel, and that ends up being a problem. So I'm going to start up real quick, because I've never been able to do much without driving it, and I'll just drive it a little bit down the road.
Okay.
Hopefully I can do it without even driving it. Now I can get the floorboard out. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is take off those 4 bolts. Original Ford had those bolts as screws, flathead screws, and I updated them to hex. It just doesn't make sense to me to try to fight with the flat screwdriver slot. Now, what's really interesting is if you study screws, the whole discussion of when flathead and all that. So it started with flathead, and all the Model Ts in the US were flathead. And there's a socket head, a square socket head, called a Robertson screw that became popular in Canada. And what's nice is you can't cam out on a Robertson screw. So a Robertson screw is just a little square head, and those, they started using it on the wood on Model T in Canada. And the idea was, for assembly, you didn't have screwdrivers coming out and stabbing your wood, which on the Ford probably wouldn't have been as bad of a thing, but elsewhere. You can see all of these screws up here on the dash. Those are all flat. And you can imagine, just had to figure out how to get those on. Well, then came along Phillips. And
when did Phillips?
somewhere before World War I, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And Phillips started doing his screws. I have to be careful here because I've shorted out my power switch here. So be careful. I'll put that right there. And so Robertson, knowing that he had the market of Ford in Canada, thought he was going to get the market in Ford here in the U.S. Now look, this is all new stuff. A little bit of cotton. That's all from this trip. So good old Robertson thought he had a slam dunk, and Ford was negotiating with him, and Robertson wanted to make all the screws and make all the money, and Ford didn't like that idea, and so he said no, and he went with, oops, that's the wrong way, he went with Phillips screw.
Oh.
And I believe it's the Model A when you'll start seeing the Phillips.
Wow.
Okay. So my goal is to do a couple of these, try to bring that up. But yeah, it ended up, we would have had Robertson screws, and not only would we have had them, Canada adopted them. And
Canada adopted Robertson screws.
yeah, they're
Okay.
very common in Canada, and they're not common at all here.
Are they, would you say, to this day?
Oh yeah, you can still.
Wow.
So, Phillips probably wouldn't near. Okay, so I like that, but I think I'm gonna give it a little bit more because I just don't want to have to do this again on this trip. Try 2 more clicks and let's see what happens. Okay, that should be a good amount of braking, and it still releases. Now, let's see. Yeah. And Ford, like with the coils, the KW coils, he required KW to allow Ford to make the coils, and that's how they had the exclusive rights, except for Ford. I'm really concerned the way this goes up and down. Not sure that's common. So is that common that the ear on the left goes down? Well, it does on the... Okay. I'm going to test each of these. So hold. Yeah, I guess all of them, as it tightens, it goes down. And for those who aren't familiar with the Ford transmission, this is the brake, and that's the one we just tightened. This is the reverse, and this is your low speed band. And at the same time the low speed band is activated, you can see this part moving. Now we have the brake on right now, and I don't want to mess with it with all the screws there. But that will, if you let go, there's a clutch in there, and all these discs will engage the clutch there. Anyways, I was just looking here, seeing how dirty things got in just the few miles. I drove it a bit to the gas station, I changed the oil, and then we've probably driven about 20 miles or so, and there's already some lining here, but it gets caught in this mesh here, and I imagine the more that gets caught, the finer the filtration will be. But that's what we call the filter on the Ford, just that screen there on the Model T. Okay, now I'll do the reverse steps. I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to get 2 corners in. And like anything, you always want to do it hand tight until you get everything on. And the center is a little tricky because I have that light bar. And now that I'm out here in the field and thinking if I lost a washer it'd be a real pain, I should probably weld these on. But what happens is when the brake is pushed, it pushes forward and will turn on the tail light. And so this sits up a little bit higher than the transmission cover. Now, for a short time they had flat transmission covers, and you go flat transmission cover, that would be a lot easier to make. It's a little bit thicker metal probably, but why did they switch over to this transmission cover, and can you just use a flat one? Well, the short answer is, now that I have that filter in there, it doesn't matter. But because that directs the oil through the holes in the center of it, right into the center of the band. So as it's turning, the oil is going through. But if you didn't have that, you need this ridge here to drop the oil in between the bands. It keeps it well lubricated. So there's small stuff like that that I don't think you'd really ever guess of how much thought and engineering is there. But yeah, those holes, maybe I'll put a clip of the picture there, those holes. The purpose of them is, yeah, oil goes to the back, but a lot of the oil just goes through those holes. And after it starts catching stuff, there's not a lot of flow going through that screen. It slows it down.
And does that affect?
The filtering? No, I think that's fine.
It still gets enough oil.
Yeah. As long as oil gets in that, the heavier stuff is going to settle back in there, and it won't ever come out. And then any metal stuff gets stuck to the magnets. Okay. And this I do snug, but don't want to rip the threads out. So, you know, knowing that this was originally designed for a screwdriver, so much easier. And when I found this little handy tool, yes, a ratchet's nice, and I have one, but this, you're not turning these very much. You adjust the length of the handle.
You have a better feel for it, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Now we need to do the belt. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna put the floorboards all back in. So time to put the floorboard back in. This bottom one, it's the trickiest one. So I have to get it around the Ruxtol pedal. Oh, that fell right in. And then the other ones are pretty straightforward.
And so the parking brake, it brakes both rear wheels.
Yeah, those are so the Model T brakes that you're using when you're driving are that band on the transmission. But your brakes are emergency brakes, similar to modern. There's a linkage back there directly connecting to it. I think you were like the good old days. Look at my inside of my sleeve already. Oh, look. Looks like we have some help back there.
Somebody telling you what to do.
Yeah. How many times can you pull off the side of the road and have a cow right there next
And working on a tee.
work on a tee? Okay, so I need to get this belt on, and I think what I'm gonna do is take off the hood so I can get to both sides and figure out the best approach. And it's not something that comes off all the time, but it feels like some oil got down in here. That probably didn't help me. Let's see if I can.
Goodbye.
No. Don't want it. Car hasn't tried to take away. Okay. So there's a little bit of oil. I can see that increasing the likelihood of coming off. But
Is there is there an adjustment to tighten that? Or no?
well, I'm gonna check that out. There. Well, belt's back on.
Nice.
Fortunately, with this new radiator, not having a belt isn't too bad. And actually, folks that drive like the Montana 500, they don't use a fin as long as you're moving. But man, going up the hill that we just went up, we weren't moving much. And I would say probably most of the rest of the trip it's not going to be a big deal with a decent radiator. It feels
So it would be good to use it on when you're hot day climbing. That's important to have.
hot day on a parade for sure.
Oh, on a parade, yeah, because you're going slow and
Yeah.
everything's keeping hot. You're not getting any wind.
A couple years ago, I had it come off. You know, I think it's a little bit on the looser side, but when I look at it, I'm like, there's not much I can do because it's already at the highest adjustment. So, you know, one thing that will knock it off is if that timer rod hits it. I wonder if that's what it is.
Oh yeah.
The timer rod.
It's just touching it. Or
Okay, Ken wants to learn how to start this, so we'll go through the steps. First thing is on your left-hand side, you want to push that one all the way up, which it looks like it is, and then you'll pull it.
that's your spark.
Yeah, that's spark advance. And then on the right, you pull your throttle down, and
How far? Middle?
about 5 to 7 of those little lines down. Yeah,
About like that.
like that. And this has an accessory. You normally don't have that. It came with the steering column that matched the patina of the car. That's why that's there. Now you want to come to the front, and you're going to pull out this wire on the side and crank it 1/2 turn with the crank. And it
At the same time?
Yes. You have to engage the crank. Okay, now you've primed it. Now you come back. Oh, we have to start it. Let's come back, turn the key switch to battery.
Yeah.
Okay, you hear the spark.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna crank, and it's probably the second crank you'll want to start on. Next one. Now move the advance down. Move the advance down. Do what?
Just making sure everything's all good.
1926.
Okay. So cool. Well,
I have a question. Can you disperse camp on BLM? Like if you go further away after the campground, you can disperse camp?
yeah, so you are permitted to disperse camping in areas that aren't designated.
Okay.
So we have special recreation management areas throughout the field office. I think there's 3 or 4.
Okay.
And other than that, if it's a dispersed Bureau of Land Management parcel, you are free to camp.
Okay.
And if you have a fire permit, can you
You could have a fire
Yep.
as long as you have the permit.
Yep, exactly.
in the right season?
Yeah.
Yep, so long as there are no restrictions,
Right.
You'll need your permit, and then you can have a fire. Just be fire safe, you know the routine,
Yeah.
shovel and water.
Cool.
But
Cool.
yeah,
All right.
What do you like about your job?
oh my goodness, I get to work outside and meet people and talk to tons of different characters.
Oh.
It's really fun.
And this is your office.
Exactly. I'm actually coming to take a couple photos too for the office.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, this is the San Joaquin River Gorge. You are welcome to stay here. Day use fee is $5. Camping overnight is going to be $10, and it is a very gorgeous cultural site. Has very large cultural significance to the Native American Indians, as well as historic for mining and gaming.
I saw one of the trails for the native people went through here to get to the Mono region. So going over the Sierra Nevada, one of the trails, and they're looking to restore that so people can hike it.
Yeah, they're looking to link up as a through trail some
That's
of these
cool.
more ancient, like historic trails.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
This is at 7. Turn the key. And it's not making that noise. Is that good or bad?
So sometimes where the crankshaft stops, it will have the coils engaged, the ignition system, and sometimes it doesn't. So
Okay.
it's fine.
Okay.
Now,
And then do I do the half again?
no, just
No.
try to crank it since it's pretty warm. You'll just
Okay.
crank it a few times. So Ken, you would normally put your thumb on the outside, yeah. Well, have all these geese on the side of the road. Beautiful views over there. We're dropping into the canyon. We're gonna go down to what they call Kerckhoff Lake. It's actually a dam, and a hydropower dam. This is a pretty decent grade. I put it in low ruxtal. Or, as some people have corrected me, they would say that's ruxtal. There's not a low and a high ruxtal, there's just a ruxtal. You know, so it doesn't, your ruxtal doesn't, it's geared low for climbing, but when it comes to going downhill, it doesn't, I mean, it helps, but it has its limits. Well, it's helping slow down. If the engine is slowing down the car, if I just held the brakes on, you end up wearing out the brakes. So, I wonder what this was here.
But yeah, I have to go pretty slow down this because I wouldn't want to lose control.
No. I wouldn't want to.
You wouldn't want to either.
No.
So there's been so many times I'm watching YouTube videos and I go, man, that's beautiful open country. When you look at this, now there is private property, but a lot of this is federal land. And like that ranger said, you can do dispersed camping. It was kind of nice to have water near us and a toilet, but that dispersed camping, a lot of places you're not paying anything. And look at this, it's so beautiful. I've never driven down this road, and it's less than an hour drive from where I live. And unfortunately, I represent a majority of people, but you don't have to go to the national parks or somewhere else. Well, we were talking about camping here at the lake, but we knew the time we had to leave and the timing wouldn't have been good, and we wouldn't have got to do the hike down the San Joaquin River Gorge there. So do you know who San Joaquin is, or what this is named after?
No. I don't know the history very well.
Well, the Spanish had California before part of America. So it's San Joaquin, meaning Saint Joaquin, but we'll have to look him up. I'm not sure if it's probably just similar to the other cities, like San Francisco. It's not like St. Francis was there blessing the city.
Yeah.
Now the King's Canyon, of course, was originally in Spanish, and it was a translation. And I don't know if it was the Magi that they were thinking of as the kings, but it was so magnificent, they were saying it belonged to kings. Now here, we see private land, no trespassing, mailbox.
Yeah, it's going to get steeper here, just so you know, I think. They've got quite a ways to go down yet.
So this is a transition between the oaks and the pines. I see a hawk or a falcon up in the tree there. Probably a hawk. Beautiful wildlife. That's a very substantial wood fence, putting that around your property.
Yeah.
Almost always people just use metal post and wire. Makes you wonder why they switched. There's the power poles. Look at those trails straight up the hill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something, huh?
Maybe for fire. Look at that. You got that's a house and they're cooking outside. That is living. I didn't even notice there's a guy at the gate.
Yeah. He could fit right in here. He could have gone for a ride with us.
Well, if I saw him in time, I would have thought.
You know, this area has elderberries and they're really prevalent.
Okay. Really good place for video.
The bridge.
Oh, look at the river. Beautiful. You can see the old bridge there. And then the power plant. So this is the power plant. I don't know if we'll be able to get much. So back in the day, they made the power facility very elaborate. Okay, I'm gonna pull in. You look at this, the Wasan powerhouse. This is the narrow side.
This building was the original San Joaquin powerhouse, #1.
Plaque
erected
there.
by Seymour and Eastwood, the San Joaquin Electric Company, in 1896, when it was the highest head plant in America, 1,400 feet, and transmitted electricity the greatest distance, 36 miles. Remodeled in 1903 under the management of A.G. Wasan, it was the first power plant in the San Joaquin Light and Power Corporation. One of the first 3 generators used in the original San Joaquin powerhouse from 1896 to 1910. From the plant, this plant has grown the latest system of San Joaquin Light and Power Corporation. There's a huge amount of dams around here. This tablet was presented by the employees to commemorate their love and respect for Lloyd Nelson, Park Superintendent John Edward Burgess, Assistant Superintendent Percy Fifield Marks, an employee, and Antoinette Pauline Marks, his wife, who drowned near the spot.
Oh my goodness.
And it's March, and it's MCMXIV. So that'd have to be, what, 19 something, but man, I'm not good with my Roman numerals.
You could probably drive through. I don't think they're gonna. Smalley Cove. Campground. I believe there's like 6, maybe 7 campsites. Yeah, but we just went past a bunch of the dispersed camping areas that would be just as nice right on the lake. Look at that. We could have camped here last night. I'm sure it wouldn't have been any warmer.
No? That's a nice spot right there.
But for tenting, they're not very flat, are they? I'm not seeing any. Yeah, it's a little bit slanted. Oh, there's some flat spots in there. Original foundation.
Yeah.
I think we're following that sign, slowing for goats. I think everyone should be riding in a Model T going up this hill for goat safety. Yeah, just for goat safety. Maybe they could require that. No more modern cars, only cars that slow for goats. So evidently someone has a goat here. Climbing the hill. Hey guys. They weren't kidding. I thought it. I didn't think we'd actually see this goats. Yeah, they weren't kidding. They were goats. So I'm in Rockskull and Low Fork right now. This is a very steep hill. I think I can switch just to Rockskull here. Let's see. It doesn't seem to like it. Man, maybe I need some goats pulling us up.
Here's the flume. Beautiful old flume here. Look at this amazing metal work, all riveted together. Wonder how old that is.
Well, we made it to the center of California. Yeah. All right. Only a couple repairs. Yeah, not too bad. So, at least North Plains, they're the center.
Look at that old gas station. Well, we're gonna go in this Napa and see if we can figure out where the true center of California is. Is it in the middle here of town? Is it in the middle of their auto parts store? So we're looking for the true center of California.
Well, you're close.
Close?
This is the true only auto parts store in the center of California.
Okay.
But we're not quite there.
So what parts do you think you have for a Model T Ford? Like belts?
I got oil. I probably got belts that'll fit it. I am pretty sure we have spark plugs for it. Actually,
Spark plugs.
one set.
They're half-inch pipe.
I think so.
Okay.
I'd have to look, but
Okay.
I really do think.
You know, those fancy hose clamps could have came in handy because we had some leaking. I had to change the radiator. We went up full house.
Oh
And
yeah.
I expended 4.5 gallons of water on the trip and 4.5 gallons of gas. So
Henry didn't put a coolant recovery tank on those, did he?
No.
Yeah, that would have been good.
so is this your business or you work?
Yeah, this is my shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long you been in business?
I've been the steward for about 3.5 years, but this has been a Napa since around 1958, maybe 60, something like that.
Cool.
Yeah, always been right here in this store.
And what's the thing that people come here for all the time?
Conversation. We're kind of like the center of town. No, my probably the biggest thing we help people out with is like fluids and maintenance supplies, filters, tune-up stuff, and then And then we're always helping people. We're out on the fringe, right? We're right on the border of the forest land. So
Those big green footprints, are people looking for something that
that's from well, that's from our Sawyers, right? Now oh my gosh,
Loggers Jamboree.
yeah, Paul Bunyan.
That's Paul Bunyan?
Yeah, I couldn't think of his name.
Yes.
So those are Paul Bunyan's footprints. He comes in the night before the Loggers Jamboree and sticks the sticks in the ground. You know, for the competition.
Wow.
Down.
Okay.
Yeah, at least that's the story.
Okay. So you're gonna show us where the
Yeah,
San Joaquin
we're close to it right here. This is good old Google Maps, right?
Okay.
So that's where you're gonna head.
Yeah.
We are right up here right now. And so we're gonna head on down Main Street. It's gonna turn when you get up to the gas station here.
Okay.
Right here.
Oh, the road turns. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't miss it.
Follow
And
the
as you keep going,
225.
go through the roundabout,
Okay.
and then you're gonna be heading up the hill, kind of. It'll be a gradual turn, and then we're heading south now again here.
And the scale there, we're talking a couple miles. Huh?
We're talking from here.
Oh well, then okay. The mobile home park is a good.
Around here to and that's gonna be your turn. You're gonna turn right here on this
Okay.
road, right before the mobile home park.
Not minarets. We stay on 225.
Yeah. And so what does that say? That's 4 miles from basically the
Okay.
gas station down here, right? And then you zigzag down here, and there's gonna be some little markers on the road. But yeah, just drive past the trailer park and keep on cruising down. It'll get narrow and windy.
Cool.
It's fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah.
Enjoy your travels, you guys.
You don't get people with truckloads of hay everywhere.
No.
You said you would go to that box feed store.
Yeah, we'd buy hay for our goats.
And that was when you lived in Auberry?
No, in Oakhurst.
Oh, really?
Just a few years back. They had the best deal, and they had actually better hay than local, like Oakhurst itself. They just carried better hay. Our goats liked it better.
Okay, there's the mobile park, and we're heading down 225. Yeah,
Looking for the center.
yeah, we're looking for the center of California. Okay, Ken, look what we found. We're gonna have to park here.
All right, the center of California. We made it, Matt.
Oh, yes, we did.
Get up there and we'll make it official.
They have this, but there's a plaque up there, so we're gonna have to look at the plaque, figure out which place.
Yeah, maybe that post is not the right one.
There's a little argument whether it's a post or there.
There's always controversy.
Looks like they're gonna put some steps in here.
Okay, look at that. Right there, 1996, California Center. You got the latitude and longitude. Evidently, this is a big deal for North Fork. Their history group put that together. We made it. Well, we got the car here. And this is as close as the Model T is going to get, but I think it's close enough. You were asking some questions about the car, and I thought, well, maybe we'd talk about it over lunch.
All right. So how did you start? I mean, you built this car. So tell me about what you started with and how it all came about.
So I knew I wanted to get a Model T, and I didn't have much money. And what I've come to realize is a friend had a different version of this, but with hobbies, you basically need three things, and you only in your life have two of those at one time. You need money, you need time, and you need health. And usually you only have one or two of those. I had very little money, and I was trying to figure it out. And I saw this advertisement for a Model T chassis, and it was $1,000. It had the four wheels, engine, and I went to see it, and I told the guy, all I have is 600, and that's what I had. And he said, I got all these phone calls all over the U.S., but you're the one here that's in person. So I got the chassis. Never had touched a Model T before.
Wow.
So I had to figure out how to get it started and do different things. But when I had bought it, it was kind of a sad thing because that guy was, quote, hot rodding it. But he had the most interesting idea. He looked in different cars. I think he had a tow business, and he found that a Hyundai had the same wheelbase or close to it. And so he was putting a closed car, I can't remember if it was a 4-door or 2-door, probably a 4-door on there. And anyways, I got a gas tank and a couple things he didn't need. I was looking for a body, and a person had a farm outside of Easton, had this out in the weather, and I thought it was perfect. And so I put this all together then, and it had wood wheels, and over time I realized wood spokes were not in that great a shape, and I was able to pick up a set of wire wheels. And in that case, there's an auction, tons and tons of stuff. And the story was, this guy was into Model Ts, and he lived in Canada or something, and his brother-in-law lived nearby. And his brother-in-law was like, man, if I restore one of these cars, I'm never going to want to touch another one. And this guy had bought 14 cars. So his strategy was to do everything on all 14 cars at the same time.
Oh my goodness.
So he took all the cars apart, and as you could imagine, all we had was just piles of parts and chassis. One of them had wire wheels, and in the auction the chassis sold for like $1,500, except for this one I bought for $225. Bought a whole chassis, had an engine, front rear axle, and all that. I didn't need all the parts. It was actually Canadian, which I still have the engine, but it's a Canadian engine. Which, is there any difference? Yeah, Ford made in Canada.
Yeah.
You know. So there are differences, but you know. for all practical purposes. But no, the wheels.
I read something about, is it the Model B that has, the Canada one is different than there's some significant differences, but I can't remember. I might be wrong.
There's differences, and people that know are gonna say, "Oh, it's totally different." And so, I ended up selling the front and rear axle to someone who was had some other Canadian parts.
Okay.
So, any other questions about the car?
So so what made this body perfect?
What made this?
You mentioned that it was perfect.
Well, I don't like body work. I don't like paint. And I definitely don't like waxing and so I didn't have to worry about any of that.
Okay. Yeah.
I washed it off originally because it had a bunch of leaves and dirt, and I've left it in the rain. I live somewhere where we've made the nation's top 10 for car theft most of my life. And scratching it. Now that's a peeve of mine. If someone scratches this, I got in a lot of trouble because someone, I won't mention who, was backing out and I scratched the paint on their car. Now, mind you, I parked the car and walked away, but it was my fault. I didn't park it in the right spot, evidently. I left it out a little too far. But this is a 1926 Model T. Ford made from 1908, which would have been a 1909 model year, all through 27. So essentially, loosely speaking, 20 years of Model T Ford. There's 15 million made, so a lot of people ask, well, is it hard to find parts? If you have Model Ts, it's hard not to have parts, unless you just choose not to buy them. As you'll see pallets of them at sales and so forth. And at different places, whatever part you need, of course, you can't find, but you can find enough to build 3 cars and for every other part. One time I needed one of the hood shelves, and I asked a friend, and he had, 10 of them. And I needed one on the left or right, and he had 10 on the other side. Just like. But
so, about the engine. So this engine came with this chassis. So, like, if you were to look at the.
Yes.
So the number, I mean, it actually originally came with the chassis.
Well, I took it apart and put back together this car at least 2 times. And one of them I said, well, it was winter, so I need to take it apart to put it in the garage. But I took it apart, and I have another car that I took that original chassis off for, because that original chassis was unstamped, and in 1926 they had transitioned. In this car, I'm not as particular about the year.
Right.
But this is the engine that I got with that original chassis.
Okay.
And I'm really thankful. There's a guy that does Babbitt work up in Auburn, Eric, and he did the Babbitt work, and he really worked with me as far as the time and schedule, because I was...
Okay, dumb question. Babbitt?
Babbitt. What is Babbitt?
What is Babbitt?
So the Model T bearings on the engine are poured in as hot metal, and back in the day you could find people to do it. It's actually fairly cheap. A lot of old machines have Babbitt, and it's not lead. Actually, lead is a bad thing to have. It's usually a very small quantity of lead, if any, but just for practical purposes, think of it as hot lead being poured into steel. So you have to heat up the block, you have to tin the block so it sticks.
Right.
And you literally are fusing that together. The atoms are sharing electrons. You get a metallic bond if you do it correctly.
Okay.
If you don't heat it up right, it doesn't stick. And so the main bearings and the crank, where the piston rods are all connected that way.
Oh.
And so, yeah, Eric did that and helped me out with the engine. And there's a handful of people, but in California you can easily count on one hand, and then people have different preferences. But
right.
in Northern California, everyone I talked to said, go to Eric.
Very cool. And he's still doing stuff.
Yeah,
He's
he's a diesel. Well, I think he retired, but he was a diesel mechanic.
Okay.
By day, and then he was helping people. I can't remember last I asked him, because Model A engines, Model T engines, other old engines, but he mainly focuses on those. I think he said 30 or 50 a year.
Wow.
And that's part of...
And they come from all over.
Mm-hmm.
So they're because he's known, and they come around.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he calls it Rumba Seat Garage. And yeah, there's an Auburn swap meet for Model T parts. I think this year it's the last weekend of May, but usually it's the first weekend in June, I believe on a Sunday. I've never gone there, but that's one. And then there's the Bakersfield swap meet. And that will be obviously on a different weekend coming up. I think it's the first weekend of May. Mm-hmm. Yep. But I appreciate having Ken here, because then I have someone to drive along with and make me not feel as crazy.
Well, it's fun to share this with you. It's been a good time.
So what's your story, and how did you get involved in vintage auto camping?
Well, I've always been a very interested student in history, and I always pursued those and just been fascinated with how they did things, back wherever when. And my grandfather was born in 1901, and that's always been sort of like just a little benchmark, for me to analyze, to realize, wow, Grandpa experienced these things, and so it made it interesting to me to explore the era and explore what they did and how they did it. And then getting involved in vintage camping just kind of flowed into that, because I do enjoy being out in the woods, and I enjoy camping and hunting and all that, fishing, and so just kind of experimenting with history and learning how they did things back then, and seeing how it felt, to do that. So that's what's kind of interested me. As far as the vehicles themselves, I have really no experience at all, so I'm learning from you. So it's been really good.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we met up in Tahoe, and that was what they called the National Motor Tour, the Amalgamated Order of Motor Campers. And I was really trying to figure out this organization, trying to find information online.
Wasn't finding anything too much.
I wasn't finding anything. I don't know what you call something that doesn't exist.
It reminds me of, there was a show, there was a show on a comedy show just recently, and it was a show about nothing.
The show about nothing?
Yeah, and I can't remember which one it is, but that was it. It was labeled as, it's a show, was it Seinfeld? I think one of those anyway, they labeled it like a show about nothing. And so that's cut to me. To me, this is like a club about something, but it's not well defined, other than a time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the...
So this is my big announcement. Is, well, first of all, we have to talk about what is the Amalgamated Order of Motor Campers.
Well, you have a great. You may want to splice in that video where you talk he talks about that.
Yeah,
a certain gentleman.
Yeah, I have Linus giving the voiceover, reading the first chapter of this antique motoring book, and essentially the author is saying, you need to go out in the outdoors, you need to enjoy it, you need to join the Amalgamated Order of Motor Campers. And it's a fictional group, and then you join by going out camping. And you know, I'm not really wanting to organize something and take on all that responsibility. But a group of people before me that got involved, they what they created was something where this national motor tour would happen every other year, and the idea was maybe once on the one region, and then the next 2 years later in another region. So they did something the East Coast, and then Tahoe's on the west, and so they're probably going to do something maybe east again, because you know, moving these cars around is a little bit difficult.
I think I heard them talk about possibly the southeast.
Yeah, southeast.
Yeah.
But that means if 25 we had Tahoe, I think we should have National Motor Tour in 2026. Where is it going to be? Well, it's going to be wherever you go. I mean, that's the whole point. But there was vintage routes across the U.S., and the whole thing of why the 1920s had the height of motor camping was the fact that they had these routes. And so what I think we should do is wherever we live nearby, if there's a route nearby, or just come out and
explore these historic routes.
Yeah, and then post online. And I know not everyone wants to post, doesn't want their face or whatever, but we can do that. Maybe just post pictures of your car, or post pictures driving down some roads, and share those with the hashtag Amalgamated Order of Motor Campers, hashtag National Motor Tour 2026, and then people can find it. For myself, I'm looking at the Central Valley as being one of those places where, and I'm thinking maybe doing a little bit of driving down some of those antique, ancient, older roads, but even coming up here in the mountains. But some of the main routes that people went across the U.S. There was a Midland route, and I have a book on that. And then there was a north and a south route where people would go across the U.S. And you have to think, 1940, there wasn't very many paved highways. Somehow we built all the equipment for World War II, but it was dirt, gravel roads crisscrossing the U.S. And, you know, 1940, so 40 years before, is wagons on those things. And, of course, horses do a lot better on gravel probably than they do on
I think it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day, and about how, you know, you read about the history of motor vehicles, and you're reading, and you always end up with these guys seeing what the vehicle can do. You know, like, let's drive up to Huntington, you know, or let's go up the Toll House Grade, and we're going to race the Toll House Grade. So there's always competition involved, and there's just seeing what they can do. And I think that back in the, you know, back at the time when these cars first came out, I think people were really curious, because they had just gone through that whole age of horse and buggy, and they knew what a horse and buggy could do, but they didn't know what a car could do. And I got to thinking about that. And I think even today, you know, when you get a new car, when you buy a new car, the first thing, at least a guy does, is they think, oh, what'll it do? You know,
Yeah.
Whether it's a 4-wheel drive or whether it's a any car. Okay, well, let's see, how does it feel when it gets up to speed, and it's like this. It's almost like it's ingrained in us. And I started thinking back, even before motor vehicles, where there were always horse races going on and people bragging about this horse and that, and where can this wagon go, and so I think it's been with us since forever. And you think of the motorbikes, that happened back at the same time as the cars, and how they went from bicycle to motorized bike, and they were immediately started racing them. And then that whole board track race thing, that phenomenon that happened starting on the West Coast and then going across country, and doing all those board track races. I don't know, it's just pretty fascinating to me.
I think you're right as far as the timing with the cars, people wanting to get out. Also, with a full tank of gas, you could go further than people could go before. And some say that before the car came out, people just didn't travel more than 50 miles from their house. Yes, there's rails, but that was maybe more wealthy people that could really get out. The Ford Model T being accessible to a whole lot more people changed that. And they say 1923 was the height of camping.
Motor camping, or camping, recreational camping,
Yeah.
like families.
Yeah.
I think that was the difference. Before that, you had people that would, obviously, there were people that were camping out in the woods, and they were doing it for a purpose. They were doing it for hunting. They were doing it for even exploration or something. But it's to have your family all jump in some wagon and let's go for fun. Let's go to a long distance and let's visit a site that we always wanted to see, that we heard about, maybe read in a book, like Yellowstone or Yosemite or Devil's Tower, or any of those places, those big landmarks in our country. And people started going to those, and then they were camping out. They would load up their vehicles with stuff, and then of course they were companies that saw the need to manufacture stuff that would work for camping, and that's where Coleman and these different companies came in, where they were making things like this ice box, and because it just exploded and it became so popular.
Yeah. I keep needing to do a video on this. I think the lady's name was Gilmore. She designed this for the state fair. She was a winner in, I think, 2 different states. I don't know how
Really? With this box?
She designed it, the kitchenette.
Wow.
And there's so many different things that came up. I'll put her name on the video, but I did some research about her, and then she went from Oklahoma. Was it Oklahoma and another state, maybe Texas? She took the idea to LA for whatever reason, got it patented, and it has an ice box. It could keep your water cool. You would put a block ice. Now, I could make block ice in the freezer, but I put more insulation in there and put some of these freezer ice, and that's the way I do it. I really don't want to drink. Well, this thing doesn't even have a good valve on the side, but you're talking probably lead solder, and you don't have to do that. I added this Boyko can for water. Just has a little valve, and I was worried about the radiator, because last time we used 4.5 gallons of water up the Toll House Ridge, and the whole trip was about 4.5 gallons of gas. This time, a couple of the lines came, I needed to tighten them a little, so it dripped a little, but as far as boiling over, it looks like it's like a modern car.
Yeah, how much water did you have to re-put in when it leaked a little?
I had a half a gallon of distilled water, and I poured it in there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think that much dripped out, but
yeah.
And so that, anyways, having a good radiator, slowly, Ken, you and I will have to find some other spots.
Yeah.
I have the goal of just going out once a month, and it's not like life or death goal, but that way, you know, if it's been 2 months, it's like, okay, when am I going to go out? And, you know, we go out here. There are houses along here. There's residential as well as government land, but we look in every direction. You would think that there was not a house for miles. You hear a shooting, it's probably someone, you know, doing target practice, either in private or government. But otherwise,
Quiet,
very quiet.
except for the cows and the coyotes.
The cows and coyotes, birds chirping. Yeah, and it's just
That's probably a lot of it why they did it back then too. Just the peace, you know.
Yeah.
They're working in a town and they're busy and they're working hard, putting in a lot of hours, and it's busy and crazy and noisy and smelly, and they want to go somewhere where it's the air's clean and just like today.
Yeah. Some of these, you have to read these vintage motor camping, auto camping books. Some of it, I'll say, is exaggerated, but they'll talk about going for all summer. I don't know how they arrange their schedule and their money, because if they weren't super wealthy. But people started being kind of vagabond campers too, but they claimed no one got sick the whole time, you know, and they were thinking of being, you know, cramped up in the city. And oh man, maybe if I can find some of those, I can put some of those quotes in here from the book. Quite entertaining, exaggerated, but the point gets across.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I live in a town, metropolitan area, about 1 million people. Driving a conventional car, you could probably get here in an hour. And I talk to people, and they haven't left. You ask if they've gone on a trip, and they say, "Oh yeah, I went to this town another hour away." Never. And here we have these beautiful mountains. We're located. I think a lot of people have opportunities like this. And if I stayed in town, I probably wouldn't see sunlight, because the fog in the San Joaquin Valley is so dense. You can go weeks like we've done. I think it's going on 2 weeks now where it really hasn't cleared out, maybe for a half an hour, but it's essentially overcast, and then the fog will come down and it'll be foggy, dangerous for driving. Matter of fact, that's one reason we have to not stay here too long. But it's a beautiful sunny day. We wore all this wool. It got down freezing last night, and now I'm gonna have to get out of the sun here.
Yeah. Well, and we met, you know, it's kind of interesting. We met some people today on the road. They stopped to check out the car, and we found out they were, you know, they had come up here for their anniversary, and different people, you know, have come up here just for the day or for whatever. So it's nice to see that.
Yeah. Well, I want to give a freebie advice here. You know, you can buy that orange stuff in one of those containers, but you can use an orange and clean your hands. Now, what I learned, someone from the Middle East showed me, they don't have a lot of water. You know how they wash their hands? They get sand. So now, if I put that sand in there, I can clean my hands and get that grease off of there and make my own version. You know, I don't have the, you know, maybe if I was up there near Crater Lake, I could use actual pumice, but I'm just going to use this all natural
Orange peel.
See if it can get the grease out. Actually, I found if I get oranges that this one was too good to ruin, but I'll get an old orange, and I've washed my hands with oranges before.
See, maybe you should start selling. We could sell and package orange peels.
Orange peels,
and sell them.
It's the acid. It's the acid that cuts through the grease, and yeah, if you get the right coarseness of sand, you can do that. I don't really want to rub too much dirt in my hands to prove a point. Okay, Well, we're gonna have to get on the road again.
Get going. Okay, peeking through those trees there is the San Joaquin Valley fog. Probably high elevation right now. We'll get a view of the fog again.
Yeah. You know, we get to look forward to going back to that fog. I haven't seen the sun for a long time. Staying on the side here, letting cars pass. They have this nice shoulder. They call it a fog line. But this downhill, I might just pull off here and let these cars.
Oh, you're not speeding, are you?
No. Okay. You know, when you get really high elevation, it looks like a lake or the ocean.
The ocean, yeah.
And I've joked with people when we're high up and you're looking over, oh, you can see the ocean from here. But look at this. This is a nice. You can see what I'm saying? People don't even know what that is. You know, you think you have to be in an airplane to be above clouds. You just have to be in a Model T and take a trip in the mountains.
That's right.
Oh, look at this window. Wow, beautiful.
It's pretty back in here.
So this drops us down to Millerton?
Yep. And we'll go around to Friant.
That was a beautiful sunny day, but now we're entering into the abyss. I mean, the valley. So,
Groggy. Pretty soon we won't have any sun. Goodbye, sun.
bye. You can feel it instantly getting really cold. We're gonna have to get our wool out again. Boy, I almost want to get my jacket on right now. There's another convenient spot. My back will get cold so quickly.
Yeah, it's talking in.
Okay, let's look up at the sun now.
There's the sun behind the cloud.
Okay, and there's a happy cow, California. Austin, tell us about your Model T.
So I got this in fruit crates about 2.5-ish years ago, and from my maternal grandfather. His friend passed away, and he gave all of these parts to my grandpa, in which my grandpa didn't really have time to put together anything. And so what he did is he said, here's all the parts. When you're ready, I'll give you an engine and transmission, and you get the car done and do whatever you want. And so...
how old were you when this started?
16.
And how long ago was that?
2.5. So I'm 18 now.
Okay.
And,
so high school project, typical high school project, right?
Yeah, typical high school project. And how I actually figured this out was the first thing I got for it was my radiator. Because on I think on my 16th birthday, I got the brass radiator. And he said the whole car's yours on my 16th birthday.
Wow. Okay, so gave you the gift of the radiator.
Yeah.
To tell you that all these other parts meant something.
Yeah, and these are all, and over time, just been redoing everything. I still have more parts and
so
and stuff.
It was all painted and everything when you got it?
No, so these are reproduction fenders and skirts that were just for Sterling primer, but they're original old stock reproductions. So they're probably over 10, 15 years old.
Yeah.
But most all of it's original. I had to learn bodywork and paint. All of this back area over here, including the back flat, it looked like someone had shot it with a BB gun and used it as target practice. So there was probably hundreds of dents all through here that all had to be heat shrunk out and hit out. The only thing that I really had to do a large amount of fabrication for bodywork was this. This was all rusted out, this whole back flat. So this was all made of, instead of the original super thin sheet metal, this is all, this is 1/4 inch, I think, and this is 1/8 inch that's been bent over. So this is super sturdy, and it's actually 3 layers of metal. So this one, and this bead had to be rebuilt all along here and welded in. So it looks like it's riveted.
So did anyone help you with this?
Well, you, and then Don Azevedo and my grandfather. So,
and the majority of the time was your grandfather,
yeah,
right? Now this is not the grandfather that gave it to you. It's
no, this is my dad, my dad's dad.
Yeah.
So, but first thing I did was the Ruxtol rear end, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I rebuilt that about 16 times. 16 separate times until it started working.
So I can send mine over because you probably know it better than me.
Well, actually, I didn't have anything at the time, so I know how it works, and I still have more parts for it. But at the time, I didn't know anything about shim stock, and so I didn't have any either. So then Don came over. He looked at it, and he's like, "Wow, this looks great. Where's your shim stock? You know, so your clearance is off a little bit." And so since I didn't have any shim stock, there's 4 Dr. Pepper cans in my rear end as shim stock.
Nice.
But
tell us about your dash here.
that is kind of a recent addition. It's a white oak that I added in. That is, I just didn't like the idea of having to look all the way down here for everything, because I have a speedometer that's going to go there and a whole bunch of stuff. But I got this clock a while ago, and I have a friend who rebuilt this. But I was told by Don that you want an amperage meter for the generator I have on it, because if that goes in the negative, you're going to burn your generator out. And guess where your generator's right next to? Your carburetor. And so if that catches on fire, then you're not having a good day. And so there's a whole bunch of safety features I've added to it. I've got a emergency on and off switch here. I have auxiliary brakes that I did custom swing arms on it. So new outside brakes. I actually can brake in reverse too, which was nice. But I did custom solid linkages, so none of this is wire. And I put a second pivot in, and I have I wonder if I can take the floorboards out so you can see, but
Are they painted in there? Usually I take the other
well,
ones.
these might be, yeah, there we go. Yeah, they're painted in, that's what it is. Because I just put this in here, because I wanted to protect it all before I put the upholstery in. Because they say you want to paint everything black, because if any of the gaps show through, you're going to see, you know, either wood or light epoxy gray. So, yeah, so these are 2 screwed together, but I'll just give you a rough idea. But, so I put a second arm down there that has a spring, and so when I actuate my pedal, that that linkage will swing the second arm out, and so instead of it being pulled at more of a 45, it's more of a straight shot to the brakes, so I have more leverage with it.
Okay, so it looks like a brake arm there, but that's being actuated by your actual foot pedal for the brake.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. I'll try to do a shot from the back. You can get it. It goes up through there, and then comes down there, and you see two of them. Cool. Now you had a question about the springs.
Yeah. So right now I'm about to do upholstery and then pinstriping. Hopefully afterwards, it doesn't really matter which order, but whichever one comes first. But these fit, but I don't think it's the right year. I think it's probably 25, 26. My second spring is up at the actual house and not in our shop, but so this one wraps over and actually screws in, which I think that's a later thing. And then my bottom spring is 17. It's supposed to be 17 inches in depth, I think.
So you're looking for a 1915 springs,
Yeah.
and for both the back and the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a 18-and-a-half-year-old that's building his own Model T. Anyone in T land knows how to help that.
And if you have a 1915 Roadster convertible top as well, that's also been a pain in the
Okay.
So,
yeah. Cool.
Well, who's the rusty bucket? Seems like my car has something in common with this place. Yeah, I think your car and that car is related.
Here's Friant Dam. On the other side of that is Millerton Lake. And then if you go over here is the old broken bridge. And this bridge, I'll have to look up the date, but I believe there's stories of it when it broke.
There's more of the broken bridge, and we are officially back into Fresno County. And we've passed over the San Joaquin River. And that's the same river we hiked down to from the camp. What is this fine metropolis we're entering? This is Friant. Friant. So that was Friant Dam. And Millerton Lake. So right there near the broken bridge, you used to be able to gold pan. I believe you still can, but it looked like the property there was blocked off. You would have to go down to the river. And I believe the river you can have access to. The stories I've heard is when that dam was built, they processed all the bedrock, and out of that, it covered the cost of the gravel. Oh, now, wow. I don't know if it paid back or the company just made twice as much. So this is not considered gold country of California. It's the very bottom of the gold country going north, but there's lots of gold even down here. And when I've gold panned along the banks there, every pan you had a few specks of gold.